Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the final recap for the regular season of Warrenton's finest fantasy football league. I'm your host, I'm your commissioner, and the manager of a very bad team. A very bad team. Anyways, coming to you here to speak about a couple things. First of all, apologies for missing the last few weeks. All three of you that watched this, I appreciate that. That makes me feel better. I need that affirmation to feel good about myself, so I can look myself in the mirror and not cry myself to sleep every day. So thank you for watching. Um, yeah, I was gonna do it in Japan, but I was having too much fun, and I was too busy, and I didn't want to look like a crazier person, walking through. I definitely couldn't have done it in Mickey's grandma's house. That would have been weird. And then I didn't want to do it outside because, again, strange. So, yeah, sorry. Didn't mean to miss it. Meant to do it last week, but reasons. I didn't do it for reasons. But here we are. The regular season is wrapped up. The playoffs are upon us. I just wanted to go through and do three things. Number one, recap what was exciting about the final regular season games, preview the playoffs, and in between both of those things, we'll look at some very interesting stats for the regular season because you know me, well, maybe you don't, but despite not being good at math or statistics or anything really smart, I do like to look at statistics and some smart things occasionally. Anyway, so let's get into it. We had in the playoffs, 4 of the 6 spots were locked up. Sean, Greg, Dan, and Mike and Michael had all. No, maybe Dan hadn't. Okay, so then Sean, Greg, Michael, and Mike had all locked up playoff spots. I think 2 were open, and yeah, 2 were open, and it came down to no, Greg hadn't even locked it up. Greg was playing Jason. Dan was playing somebody. Hannah was playing Carlos. And it came down to those. We actually had only 3, half of the spots. It came down to the half. That's pretty exciting. Spoiler alert, Greg beats Jason, locks up a spot. Wasn't that exciting. It got maybe a little bit exciting at the end there. I think Greg was just bracing for a defeat, but ultimately, Greg, you were pretty safe, winning 106.7 to Jason's 99.06. And Jason started to sweat because it was kind of like an win, you're in kind of deal. Dan lost to Brandon, but still was in. And Hannah needed to win and needed some extra magic. Hannah crushed Carlos. Sorry, Carlos. 132.3 to 68.02. Carlos's score, inconsequential. Hannah's score and Jason's score, very consequential because, as you can tell if you look at the standings, both going into last week, we're both sitting at 7 and... Or Hannah was at 7 and 6. Jason was 8 and 5. If Hannah won, she would have the same record as Jason, but it would come down to points scored. Jason had, I think, I wrote all this down in the chat, but maybe people didn't see it, or maybe I don't remember. But Jason had, to that point in the season, scored 53 more points than Hannah in the regular season. And so Hannah needed to win, Jason needed to lose, and Hannah needed to score 55 more points than Jason did in that final game. And as it turns out, Hannah scored 33 more points than Jason and missed the playoffs by a whopping 19.28 points. Hannah, I did the math. I mean, first of all, bravo. Bravo for going from last in the league and tooting your kazoo on the streets of Culpeper to finishing 8 and 6. Very strong campaign and missing the playoffs by a nose hair. You needed, this is going to probably sting a bit, if you had scored 1.38 more points a week, 1.38 points a week more, you would have made the playoffs. And I count at least 3 times in the season where you started someone who didn't play. So, check your lineups. Greg, listen to Greg. Check your lineups, people. Check your lineups. If you had played, isn't that crazy? 3 times that, I think, probably more, maybe more, at least 3 that I can think of. Week 2 against me, this last week, and I think the previous week. Anyways, 1.38 points more scored a week, and you'd be in the playoffs. And Jason, would be a pretty average team. But as it is, Jason named perfectly again, a slightly above average team. So that's it. Our playoff field is set. We've got Sean and Mike locked up as the 1 seeds. Greg, Michael, Dan, and Jason are the rest of our playoff contenders. And congratulations to Paul for doing something I've never seen, because he was trying. I do believe he was trying quite hard. An 0 for 14. And I have the privilege of playing him in the first round of the losers bracket. So I'm nervous because we all know how my season went. Anyways, what a season. Sean losing the first game of the year, going on a 13-game winning streak, and Paul losing the first game of the year and then going on a 14-game losing streak. And then everybody else just kind of did a lot of stuff in between. So, on that note, let's take a quick look, because I know my team's 3-11. I'm not saying that my team was good. What I'm saying, though, is that my team I don't think was that bad. And some people's teams are good, but they're not that good. So I just want to look at a couple interesting stats. I'm not going to read this out to you of points scored and points against. What I will do is I took the time to divide all of these points for and points against by the amount of games played, 14, just to see what people's average points scored per game was. And just see, because in fantasy football, here's the and this is always brought up by people that have a losing record and a terrible team. So I'm the one bringing it up. I fully recognize that. But fantasy football is extra frustrating because you could have a great team or you could have a terrible team, but regardless, you have no impact on who you're playing each week and how many points they score each week. I kind of wish that you could somehow chess move your way against and impact the other person's lineup, but you can't, aside from not texting Paul that Christian McCaffrey is hurt. Now, looking back, it's kind of funny that he played, 2 games the whole season? That first pick is cursed. Hannah last year picks Justin Jefferson. He gets hurt. She finishes last in the league. This year, Paul gets the first pick, picks McCaffrey. He's out the whole year. He hasn't even won a game. So next year, I don't want the first pick. Heavens, please, no. Anyways, more on that later. But yeah, fantasy football. You could have your best week ever, but if you go against someone that has an even better week, what was the point, right? And that happened to me a handful of times. So real quick, I thought I would give us the top scoring teams, what your average scores per game was. The top scoring team of the league was Greg, averaging 119 points a week. Good job, Greg. Sean was second place with 117. Good job, Sean. Michael, third with 114 averaged a week. Dan with 113.4 a week. And Greg, actually, you were 119.93. So you were nearly averaging 120 points a week. Let me get the decimal points in here. Greg, 119.93. Sean, 117.74. Michael, 114.02. Dan was fourth with 113.41 points scored a week. Fifth place was Jason with 111.09. And here's where it gets interesting, folks. So Jason, slightly above average, 5th of 12. How about that? Hannah, 109.71 points scored a week, is 6th top scoring team. Mike, 109.70, averaged 0.01 points less a week than Hannah, yet finished the season 11-3. Hannah finished 8-6. What? They scored basically the same amount of points, but Hannah has 3 less wins than Mike? More on that later. All right. 7th was Mike, like I said, 109.7. I was actually the 8th highest scoring team. Yes, I realize that's the bottom half of the league, but I scored 100.16 points a week. That's not terrible. Carlos was 9th, 96.6. Matt, 10th, 96.59. Paul, who didn't win a game, 11th, 90.98 points a week. And then Brandon, who won 4 games this season, averaged 87.25 points a week. So, isn't that strange? Isn't that just strange? So points scored, so that's points for. So Hannah, you averaged 109.71 and won 8 games. You averaged scoring against you 97.84. Mike actually averaged a higher point scored against of 100.65. So I don't know. So again, you look at these stats and it's like, well, I guess Hannah probably got blown out a handful of times, or either blew out some people I mean, the final week's an example. Hannah scores 132, Carlos scores 62. So it's just one of those things where it's like, well, nuts. It's very interesting. So Sean and Greg. Sean is 13-1. Greg was 9-5. Greg scored the most out of any team and lost 4 more games than Sean did, because Sean's average points against per week was 99.32. Greg's average points a week was 110.91. So you still beat your points scored against. You're averaging 9 points more scoring than scored against Greg. So that's why you finished 9-5. But people were scoring an average of 11 points more against you than they were against Sean. Sean, you had a great team. You were the second highest scoring team. Not disputing that. But you had the third lowest total of points scored against you this season, which is just weird. It's like, Sean, of all people, you didn't need that help. Sean didn't need that help, but the schedule just so happened to be that the second highest scoring team had the third lowest amount of points scored against. Now, who had the highest amount of points scored against? Paul. The second lowest scoring team had the highest amount of points scored against him. Again, the two numbers aren't correlated at all. It just so happens that that's how it happens. Paul was averaging 90.98 points a week, was averaging 116 points scored against him per week. That's rotten luck. That is terrible luck. Because if he was averaging, Sean's total against him, or Michael, who actually had the lowest points scored against. So Michael, you're not off the hook. You finished 10-4. You averaged 114. Again, third highest scoring team. Good job. But you had the lowest points scored against you. Overachiever. How about that? You were averaged 96.4 points against you a week. Isn't that just strange? It's just weird. It's just weird. My team, 100.16 points scored a week. And I had 114.93, the second highest total scored against. So I had the 8th highest scoring team, second most teams scored against me. I know it sounds like I'm harping on this because I'm bitter and jaded and angry. And I am bitter, jaded, and angry. But I just like looking at stuff like this because it's like it comes down to who you played and what week you played them sometimes. I think I scored like 130 something points. It was my best week ever against Mike. And then he won. He won with like 142 because he had a player in like Monday night game that scored like 40 points, and I like sand slipping through my fingers. I should have looked this up, but I think I probably had the most losses on Monday night than any other team. It was pretty brutal. It always came down to like the final players. Either I had to score a certain amount, as it works with sports, or I just needed someone to not have their craziest, biggest game ever, and it just never worked out in my favor. So that was pretty frustrating. It was a hard season. It was a hard season to stomach. Very difficult. Not the way I wanted it to go, but it was entertaining. Entertaining to the last bit. Okay, so that was the scoring. I thought I'd take a quick look also at trades, free agent acquisitions, IR, so injuries, and then like final rosters comparing from draft to this. So real quick, the leader of trades in the league, it's no surprise, Sean, had 5. The next highest person had 2, which was Jason. And Jason, I still just, even though Malik Neighbors and the Giants ended up just pooping the bed, I still look back at that trade and just say, I think that started it all. Actually, no, Greg started it all by trading Kelsey to Sean for, I can't even name who you got for those, Greg. That was the worst trade of all time. Anyway, Sean had 5 trades. Next highest was Jason with 2, and then we had a few other people with 1 trade. I had my first trade ever this season, and it didn't work out for me. So, free agent pickups. The highest amount of free agent pickups was Sean with 34. Now, granted, 32 of those was Keenan Allen dropping and picking him up throughout the whole season. Poor fella got whiplash from all the drops and ads, but 34 pickups, 34 drops from Sean. The lowest amount of pickups was Mike and Hannah with 7 pickups for the season and 8 drops. But Sean had 6 IR spots. Now, I think Hannah and Mike might have had more IR spots, but you guys don't know how to use your IR spots. I don't know if I need to do a tutorial on this. I think I explained it pretty clearly, at least a half a dozen times. So, guys, whatever. If you don't want to use it, that's fine. But Sean, congratulations. You oh, well, this part's interesting. So I was going to do this for every team, but I got 3 teams in. I was like, forget this. The top 3 teams when I clicked on it was my team, Michael's, and Sean. So this is pretty interesting because I did a trade, and I had, I don't know how many pickups I had. I could probably look, but I don't care. Michael had 0 trades, and Sean had 5 trades. Sean had 13 wins, and he drafted 16 players, and only 6 are still on your roster, Sean. So 10 have been replaced through free agency and through trades. So the draft's not all it's cracked up to be. Or is it? Michael and I actually both have 10 of our 16 original, which I just thought was interesting. You know, injuries happen, and people that you thought would be good, Zeke Elliott, which I didn't really think he'd be good, but I was hoping he would be. Marvin Harrison Jr., you stinker. Disrespected your dad with how poorly you played this year. Anyways, all that to say, just pretty interesting. Sean, the highest scoring team and only 6 OGs on your roster. Michael, the second highest scoring team, 10 of your 16 OGs on the roster. And I have one of the worst teams, and I also have 10 of my originals. So, like, I don't know. It's pretty interesting. Okay, that's that. Let's take a quick look at the playoffs. I'm not going to preview the losers bracket because this video is 16 minutes, and I think my 3 viewers just dropped down to 1, and it's me to make sure that it loaded correctly. So let's just take a quick look at the scoreboard, the playoff bracket for round 1. Sean and Mike both get bye weeks this week. So we've got Dan taking on Greg. Both teams are 9-5. Right now, Greg is projected 127 points, which is just insane. That's insane, Greg. But you were averaging 120 a week, so not that far off. And Dan's averaging, or being projected 114. We all wait with bated breath to see if this is indeed Greg's last year. I think, Greg, you just want me to beg you to continue, but I also think if I beg too much, you'll find satisfaction in quitting. If I don't beg enough, you will also try to stick it to me by quitting. So I'm teetering on a dangerous line here. I don't quite know how to make you continue playing, but please play. But if you don't, I don't care, but I will care. But I'll care just enough to get in that sweet spot where I think you'll play again. Okay, then we've got Jason taking on Michael. 8-6 Jason taking on 10-4 Michael right now. Michael's projected 123 to Jason's 115. Okay, so well, okay, I'll do everything else because that was the winner's bracket, and that's only 2 games. Consolation, I'm taking on the Weasel, hoping not to give him his first win of the season. Wouldn't that just be something? I'm projected 108 to Weasel's 83. Matt's taking on Hannah. Right now, Hannah projected 110. Matt's 106. Brandon taking on Carlos. Right now, Brandon 97 to Carlos's 93. Carlos, I think we broke you. I think that week where Matt did the trade to Sean did the trade with me, I think that broke you because I haven't heard from you in the chat since that time. I miss you, buddy. Hope you're doing well. Say hi to your dog and your wife for me. Not in that order. Do it in the order that doesn't get you in trouble. Okay, well, that's what we got going on. We will still do, I would like to. I'll reach out and see if we can still do that $5 buy-in for the losers bracket so we can have something to pay attention for. Winner of the most games and highest points for the losers bracket would get the buy-in, which would, if it's 6 teams doing $5, that'd be $30. That'd be our buy-in back, so that'd be nice. So I'll send that out, and I know everyone's wondering what's going on with the punishment. I need to reach out to Paul, see if we can get the owner-operator of the Warrenton Chick-fil-A to, in fact, do a calendar for us. If not, we'll come up with a different punishment. Okay, this video is 20 minutes long. I was supposed to do something else tonight for work. No, I'm not working yet, but I'm trying to remember what I do. So, anyways, it's been just a whale of a season. Appreciate you guys sticking in there. For those of you that have participated throughout the regular season in Discord and with, razzing and talking about it, that's why we do it. We do it for the community aspect of it. We do it for the fun. I don't do it for the money, clearly. This is basically a philanthropic, what's the word? Philanthropic? Almost said apocalyptic. Endeavor for me. I will never see a profit on this. But in my other league, just want to throw out, I'm not total garbage. In my other league, I do have a first round bye. My church league, and I'm 9-5 in that one. feeling pretty good. I mean, it's only an 8-person league, but still. Anyways, okay. Happy hunting. Why would I even say that? I've never said that ever in my life. Check your lineups, and I'll talk to you guys later. Peace.